Before we get too far into multiplying fractions, I want to really look at why do we multiply fractions, how we multiply them. So I want to remind you that multiplication is about groupings. So for example, if I have two sets of three friends, I don't think anyone's surprised by this, but we would have 6 friends. But what happens if I want to introduce fractions into this? So let's think about having a half of a set of friends. So I have my 3 friends, and I want to look at a half of a group. I want to make sure I have the same amount. And then I'm going to cut someone in half, which now that I think about it, my friend might not enjoy that too much. So let's maybe think of something else besides people. Pineapples. Okay, so I have 3 pineapples and I want half of my group, so I'm going to have 1.5 pineapples. We can also think about this as 3 times 1/2. So with multiplication, I can switch the order using the commutative property. So I have 3 sets of 1/2. That's also another way to say I have 1.5. So if you look at this, I'm going to do top times top, or numerator times numerator, and bottom times bottom, or denominator times denominator. So 3 times 1 is giving me 3, 1 times 2 is giving me 2. What happens when I have a mixed number involved? So in my last problem, I'm just multiplying the tops, multiplying the bottoms. Well, remember my people or my pineapples, I always have to be thinking about the same thing in my groups. So if I have 2.5, well, I have 2 whole circles. That doesn't really help me out too much. So I'm going to need to cut those in half. So now I have 5 halves times 1/4. Now, if I separate that out, you can see I have my different halves right now, and there's 5 of them. I can also think about my problem as 1/4 times 5 halves, meaning I want to take each of my halves and I want to split that into fourths. And now I want 1/4 of each of those. So I remember my friend or my group in this case is a half. I want 1/4 of that. And you can see I have 5 different colored green segments. So on the top, I'd have 5. Each whole is cut out of 8. So I'd have 1 times 5 is 5, 4 times 2 is 8. So top times top, bottom times bottom. But what I had to do is I had to make that mixed number improper because I needed to be talking about equal parts to start with. Let's practice a few. So if I have 2/7 times 2/3, and I'll give you a little bit to think, I'm going to do top times top, 2 times 2 is 4, bottom times bottom, 7 times 3 is 21. So I have 1 1/4 times 3/7. The first thing I'm really going to need to do is take that mixed number, 1 1/4, and make it into an improper fraction. So I'm going to do 1 times 4 plus 1. That's going to give me 5/4. And then I'm going to do top times top, bottom times bottom. And that's going to give me 15/28. Looking at my next problem, I have 3/4 times 1 2/5. Well, my 1 is a whole, so I really need to break that up. So I'm going to turn that 1 2/5 into an improper fraction. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 2 is going to give me 7. So 3/4 times 7/5. I'm going to do top times top, bottom times bottom. That's going to give me 21/20. And then I need to turn that improper answer into a mixed number. So 20 goes into 21 one whole time with 1 left over. So I get 1 1/20. Look at my last problem. I have 2/9 times 5/7. Numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So I'm going to end up with 10/63. We can also cross-reduce when multiplying fractions. Now, you still can do top times top, bottom times bottom. You're just going to need to simplify when you get your answer. But it often makes our arithmetic, our math, a little bit faster if we can cross-reduce. But again, let's look at why that's happening. Well, if I take that 10, I can rewrite that 10 as 2 times 5. All right, so now looking at this, and I'm going to write it out as 2 times 5 times 2 in the numerator. I'm just going to leave it broken up like it is in factors. And in the bottom, I have 13 times 5. We can see on top I have a 5, and on the bottom I have a 5. Well, let's think about this for a second. That means really 5 divided by 5, so those 5s become a 1. And then on the top, I have 2 times 2, and on the bottom, I just have the 13. Let's look at this in a different way. I'm going to take 10/13 times 2/5. And I can see that the 10 and the 5 share a common factor of 5. I can cross-reduce any numerator with any denominator. So 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 10 twice. So then on the top I have the 2 times 2, which is going to be 4. On the bottom I have 13 times 1, which is going to give me 13. Well, I hope this video really helps you get your homework done in a fraction of the time.